iOS 9 is officially available to download today, but should you? A 14-year-old aspiring engineer has been arrested for bringing a homemade clock to school, and IT executives and scientists ponder what tech advances we'll have by 2025.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, September 16th, 2015. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100-plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. And by Gazelle. Would you like to get cash for your old iPhone? Gazelle makes it easy. The shipping is free and the payment is fast. What's your iPhone worth? Find out at Gazelle.com. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. I'm Megan Morrone. Mike Elgin is on assignment at Dreamforce 2015. Our co-anchor today is ZDNet contributing writer Kevin Tofel. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, Megan. Good to be here.
Good. So you got your coffee, you got your iPhone update. You don't need anything else.
I'm all set, although I just ran out of coffee.
Oh,
so
no.
if somebody can fax me some, that'd be great.
Great. Maybe that comes with iOS 9 coffee. I don't know.
Maybe. I could use it.
So speaking of iOS 9, today is the special day, that very special day in fall. The leaves start changing. We bring out our winter coats, and we download the newest operating system on our iPhones. iOS 9 is officially available to download today. But should you? Joining us to help answer this question is Rene Ritchie, editor-in-chief at iMore. Welcome, Rene.
Hi, Megan. How are you?
I am doing well. So before the show, you told me that your update came precisely at 1 p.m. Eastern, as it was supposed to, and you've downloaded it. How is it?
I'm in the process of downloading it. There seems to be a massive amount of people hitting that server, so it could take a while.
So do you recommend people download right now or wait?
I mean, the people listening to this show are going to want to download right away because we're geeks and techies, and that's all we do. But for normal people, for citizens, you just wait till it's tonight, till it's convenient. Wait a couple days if you want to. There's no rush. It'll be the same great update whenever you do it.
Rene, my download kind of crapped out too, so I think we're hitting the same server there. But this free upgrade is available for all iOS devices, I think going all the way back to the iPhone 4S and the iPad 2. Those devices, compared to the newer ones, don't have as much memory and they have slower processors. So do you think the iOS 9 software upgrade is going to work well on these older devices?
Yeah, that's been the cause for some concern in years past, and Apple's made a concerted effort to try to rectify that. First, they're being much more aggressive in downscaling features. So if you have an older device, you don't get all of the features that you get with the new one, but it also means you don't take the massive performance hit. And they've also done everything. They've slimmed down the update now. It's only 1 gigabyte as opposed to 4-point-something gigabytes last time. And they're doing all sorts of binary slimming on their end. They're removing assets for devices that you don't need. Like if you have an iPhone 4S, you don't need the iPad Pro interface on that device. So they're getting rid of all of that. They're doing on-demand resources now. So I tried the beta on my iPhone 4S, and I don't like to judge on betas. It was fine. I want to install the real version and see, but so far it's looking much better.
So we've been talking about all of these new features for a while. I know you've downloaded all the betas, and a lot of people have. This is the first time that the public was allowed to download. Is there anything different in the real version that you know of? I know you haven't gotten it yet, but is there anything that we're going to see different that you know of?
No, well, some people are saying that they're actually getting an update notice from the GM, the Golden Master candidate, that's around 42 megabytes. So there might be a few small differences, and Apple can tweak things up until the last minute. But it'll generally be the same. If you've experienced it on the beta, you know what you're getting at this point.
So Rene, over at iMore, you guys put together a massive, I think it's like 21,000 words, but you can correct me, a review of iOS 9 based on the beta. Can you sum that up in 10 words or less?
Absolutely polished and better. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we're getting now is based on the technologies that they went through some pain to give us in iOS 7 and iOS 8. Everything from auto layout and size classes to continuity and extensibility. Those were sort of the foundational blocks. They had to dig everything up to lay. And now they're just doing great things with it. I launched an Overcast, which is an app by Marco Arment, and I told Siri to remind me about an episode of Security Now. Then I went back and listened to 2 other shows chose, went to reminders, took me right back to Security Now. And Marco didn't have to add that. That was just because he'd added continuity to support, and the same indexing works for backlinks and reminders. So we're getting the benefit of all this technology sort of being surfaced in these great new features.
So what about watchOS? That was supposed to come out today too, but now it's delayed because of a bug?
Yeah, so I mean, this is not unprecedented. Last year, there were some issues, I think, with signing certificates on extensions and some stuff with HealthKit. So basically what happened is, as far as I know, this is nothing that faces customers. So if you have the Gold Master, almost called it the Grandmaster, if you have the Gold Master on your Apple Watch, you have nothing to worry about. Apple is just taking some time to fix a few things on their end, and then they're going to push it out again as soon as they can. So
what are you most excited about with the watchOS?
With watchOS, it sort of makes me complete. Like, the apps are native now. You can have custom complications. The time travel doesn't just work on one face; it works on all the faces. It's everything that we sort of got hinted at, like the more personalization. You can have photos and photo albums and live photos as your clock face. So it's a bunch of really neat things. The thing I like the best, though, is that they have this new thing called watch connectivity. And that means if you've connected to a network and to a service, and then you go out jogging without your phone, maybe you jog into Starbucks, you can still get your messages, you can still get your sports scores, because the watch remembers how to connect to those services. So it's growing up, Megan. It's about a toddler or a kid now. It's amazing.
Rene, you mentioned that this kind of software delay isn't quite unprecedented, but it is pretty rare for Apple to actually announce a date for something, software in this case, and then not meet it. My thought is, and I worked for a software quality assurance department for about 10 years, my thought is they're doing the right thing by holding things up. And I think some people might disagree, but I'm curious about your opinion, even though we don't know the scope or the size of the bug.
Yeah, so like I mentioned last year, it shipped, and then there were some problems installing some apps because of extensions, or HealthKit apps had to be delayed by a week to get something fixed. And there's a lot of confusion around that. Nobody knows the state of what their update is in. And I think you're absolutely right. This is the better call. I mean, thank goodness we're not in the age of printing discs or CDs anymore. We can actually, it's just bits that we have to stop. But I would prefer this every time, because, you work at Xena, you see the same thing that I do. When something does go wrong, it's just panic and mayhem. And it's much better to have a little bit of disappointment than a lot of confusion.
Well, we will be looking forward to it, especially for you. And I'm going to use that line you used. Rene, Ritchie, watchOS 2, it completes me, I think, is a beautiful piece of poetry that I
The watch faces match the new bands, Megan. They thought of everything. There's like ivory white and violet and something like stone rose. I mean, it's nuts.
Well, speaking of rose, are you going to get a new Apple Watch when they come out?
I think you can get the rose gold and the gold one already. The Hermes ones are still coming, but I have two. I don't know how many I can buy, Megan. They might lock me up at some point.
Yeah, you probably should stop buying bands.
I'll let Georgia buy the rose gold one. That seems fair.
That does seem fair. And you can buy me the Hermes band. And then
okay, perfect. Okay, done. Great. You solved everything.
Well, Rene, thank you so much. Rene Ritchie is editor-in-chief at imore.com and host of Mac Break Weekly, and at Rene Ritchie on Twitter. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So here's a story we've been following this week. A 14-year-old aspiring engineer has been arrested for bringing a homemade clock to school. Ahmed Mohammed brought his invention with him to high school to show his engineering teacher. Later, when it went off, like it beeped, made a sound in English class, his English teacher reported him to the principal, called it a hoax bomb, and Mohammed was arrested. Have you been looking at this story, Kevin?
I have, and it's kind of sad, because it seems like a huge overreaction. And I mean, yes, kids in schools, we need safety, no argument there. That's not my point at all. But we're kind of in a hacker/maker environment these days, especially with the younger generation, who these kids can go out and get Arduinos or other boards and modular computers. And, it just seems like, again, a big overreaction to me. It's a real shame.
Yeah, I mean, his English teacher said it looks like a movie bomb. I mean, people are up in arms about this, like what you're saying. Also because, I mean, my kids bring stuff like this to school all the time. They bring their snap circuits. They don't get in trouble. I mean, a lot of people are saying it's what he looks like. And I think that's really sad. It reminds me of the stories of, kids with fake guns that, get killed because they don't, because of what they look like and because they don't have the time. That was the other thing they were saying, that they were asking him about it and he refused to say. He said it was a clock. He just said it was a clock. And kids get nervous when they're being asked like that. They don't. So yeah, it's sad. That picture of him, I think that we already showed it, that he's wearing his NASA shirt in handcuffs. It's just, we know kids like this. We were kids like this. And yeah, it's a hard story to take, but it's interesting that it's getting so much press.
Yeah, it's also interesting that according to the Dallas Morning News, the English teacher who raised the issue actually kept the clock on her desk. I mean, she really thought it was a bomb. Why would you keep it on your desk? I mean, it just, again, seems like either a communication issue, a scared kid, and blowing something out of proportion.
Right. And no criminal charges were filed, but this was definitely an overreaction. I think everyone agrees. But yeah, I think you can follow the official Twitter account if you want to keep following this story. It's I Stand with Ahmed. I know Raspberry Pi also tweeted out that they wanted his address to send him some stuff, which I thought was great.
Yeah. Nice.
Yes. Well, moving on to the next story. Yesterday in a town hall meeting, Mark Zuckerberg announced that Facebook is testing a dislike button. Immediately, the internet was up in arms about how this would foment unrest across the world, everyone disliking everybody's post. But I think his heart was really in the right place. He's talking more about a way to express empathy on Facebook. Joining us to talk about whether that's possible is Martin Beck from Marketing Land. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, Megan. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So this wasn't a formal announcement of the dislike button, right? It sounds like this was the first time that someone asked him this question when he was actually allowed to say they're working on it.
Right. I mean, he's been asked this, or Facebook has been asked this forever. As he said it's been asked hundreds of times, but it's probably, at Facebook scale, it's probably more like, millions of times. People have wanted to be able to, when to click some kind of a button that allows them not to, like terrible news. For years, people have wanted that type of thing. Mark is on the record multiple times saying that he didn't want to set up a situation where people were downvoting other people's comments, or other people's posts on Facebook. That he didn't want a popularity contest. That's he is quoted when he last on the record spoke about this publicly. I think it was last November at another town hall meeting. He said that Facebook wasn't going to build a dislike button because that wasn't the type of world that he wanted to engender, to put forth. So this time, he said, people have been asking about this forever. I've finally, today is a happy day because I can tell them that we're about to ship something. And that immediately led to headlines all over the place saying the dislike button was coming. But then he sort of walked it back. And, I mean, my interpretation of his comments was that, he probably, that an actual dislike button isn't going to happen, but some sort of a kind of a squishy empathy button or a series of buttons is likely. So,
Martin, in some sense, there really already is a dislike implicit feature there in Facebook, and that is just to not like a post. And the algorithm works on likes, and the more things that get liked in your circle of friends, the more likely you're going to see it there. Do you think we really do need some type of dislike or to be worked into Facebook's algorithm? I know that when I see somebody sharing sad news, I mean, I feel kind of strange liking it to show them my support. Maybe somebody lost a family member or a pet. What do you think Facebook should be doing about this?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think that people have long sort of been, reluctant to hit like on bad news that their friends are sharing. But it's easy to just comment on that, and that shows your support, and it shows your support in a more sort of intimate way, really, by actually making a comment. But people like shorthand devices, and And I can see why, you know, people want to be able to have something other than like to be able to express like sort of that shorthand emotion or empathy. Whether, you know, I mean, I think Facebook could get away with not doing anything, but they seem to have hit upon something that they think will work and maybe take some of the pressure off these, you know, hundreds or thousands or millions of times people have been asking for a dislike button.
It's interesting to think because it's almost a testament to how lazy emotionally we've gotten these days. I mean, because how long does it take to write a comment when someone says, you know, I'm getting a divorce, or you know, my family member died, just to say, I'm thinking of you, or, you know, do you need help? It's like it went from actually being in a community, going to help someone, to, okay, well, I'll email them, I'll call them, now I'll leave a comment on Facebook, and we can't even do that. I just need to press a button and move on. It's a little bit sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. But that's the way the world is these days. And why am I'm not in front of my camera. I'm sorry about that.
Well, I think he also brought up refugees, those pictures of the refugees that were all over Facebook,
Right.
which I think that's an interesting, use case for this too, because it's like, I'm not going to like those pictures, but I do want to show interest in them. And I think that may be where Facebook is coming from. Like, they want people to come to Facebook for everything, for news. And if no one wants to like those pictures, they're not going to show up. And I mean, 'cause that's really how the algorithm works, right? So he wants another way to really have Facebook be exactly what we want it to be, right?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I mean, the Facebook algorithm definitely depends on those signals that people give it to show, you know, the things that they're interested in. And, you know, Facebook over the years has tried to find other ways to to recognize when people are interested in a story. And you know, like by clicking through how long you stay on a link, how long that you linger on a video, how long that you look at a post on Facebook. So, you know, and you know, they want Facebook to be the best, you know, personalized newspaper in the world for each person. And by adding, you know, just other ways for people to sort of signal interest in things that they're interested in, kind of redundant, but by doing that, it definitely gives them, you know, more signals. And we know that Facebook wants more signals, more data. The more data, the better for them. So this seems like another good way for them to be able to do that.
Right, and exactly. They're really making a play for the news, and I think most of the news is not stuff that you tend to like. So I think this might be another way that they can make it a place where everyone goes to get their news. I also think it's interesting because, I mean, it just shows that Zuckerberg is growing up. I mean, he really, you know, wants to try to understand empathy, wants to make people on Facebook more empathetic. And just recently, you know, he announced his wife was having a baby, and also talked about how they had experienced a miscarriage. And I just wonder how much that had to do with it, because it's like you want to like half of that, but not like the other half. So it's, Well, Martin, thank you so much for joining us. Martin Beck is from Marketing Land. He's at Martin Beck on Twitter.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter, you can post to 100 plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Now, posting jobs in one place isn't enough to find quality candidates, and short staffing leaves little time to post to so many job sites. Thanks to ZipRecruiter, you can post to 100 job sites with one single click and be instantly matched to candidates from over 6 million resumes. With just one, you could post just once, and within 24 hours, you can watch your candidates roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. Lisa, here's a testimony from Lisa. She is a happy ZipRecruiter client. She said, I'm a business owner, yet a novice when it comes to navigating these job boards and searching for qualified candidates for my company. This morning was another near catastrophe that I avoided due to the help of one customer service agent by the name of Jed. He not only helped me out, but went above and beyond to make sure that I was satisfied. For that, I am grateful and would recommend ZipRecruiter to anyone. Thank you, Lisa. Today, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today. The World Economic Forum recently surveyed IT executives and scientists to find out what tech advances we'd have by 2025. Mike Murphy from Quartz wrote about the findings of the report that's entitled Technological Tipping Points and Societal Impact. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Megan, how are you?
Good. So what topped the list of technologies that we will see in 2025?
So according to the scientists and experts surveyed, the most likely thing out of all of the things that we may or may not have in 10 years' time is 10% of the people in the world wearing clothes that are connected to the web, which is a pretty low number, but it does seem like everyone was super on board with that idea.
So, Mike, I don't know about you. I've actually read Popular Science magazine for years and years, and one of my favorite features is when they show covers from 60, 70, 80 years ago. And some of the predictions back then still aren't even true. So I guess the question is, how reliable are these predictions, actually can they be? This is out to 2025, which isn't too far away, but what's the reliability factor here, do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a bit of an issue, which is why it's interesting that the number topping the chart is only 10%. They're kind of hedging their bets with a low number. And some of these predictions do seem like things I'd be really surprised about happening in 10 years' time. Like, I'd be very surprised if we see the world's first robot pharmacist, down at the local CVS in 10 years' time. So I think there's definitely some validity in some of these claims. What I would say is that they seem to indicate trends that we're definitely moving towards rather than actual tipping points, even though I know that's the name of the survey.
Well, they do seem like trends. I mean, it's like, we talk about, Siri and artificial intelligence, it's all new. And, that stuff has sort of been around since, Microsoft, Clippy, and Bob. It's been moving at a very slow pace. Do you think that we're really at a tipping point? Do you think we're speeding up in these kinds of developments?
I think definitely in some of these things we're speeding up. The surveyors definitely hinted at a lot of Internet of Things type developments. And I do think in the next 10 years, we're going to see that kind of boom that they were forecasting. They said there's going to be 1 trillion sensors connected to the Internet in 2025. And I wouldn't be so bold as to put a hard number on it like that. But definitely things like that, we're seeing already a move towards that. I got, this thing with its unupdated operating system strapped to my wrist. And so there's definitely a move to that sort of thing. But it did feel like in the longer report itself, they made reference to Gartner's hype cycle, which is basically a chart like this that shows that there's a big bump of excitedness around an idea well before we can actually implement it. And we're definitely in that kind of like overhyped era in a lot of these technologies right now, like 3D printing and to a degree, things like robotics in terms of like being able to have something like a pharmacist, that requires so many different moving parts to work together properly that it's really easy and exciting to write, as I often do, about things like that. But it's another thing to actually turn those into realities.
Mike, we're seeing a big push right now with driverless cars, for example. We've already got smartphones, and your watch, for example, has, always-on real-time mapping. So I was a little surprised to see towards the bottom of the list, the first city with more than 50,000 people and no traffic lights. It was only like a 63%, percentage of people believing in that. I think it might happen actually sooner than that, and I'm curious what your take is.
Well, I definitely think that the technology is going to be ready soon. I mean, Google self-driving cars are already bopping around the streets in Austin and California. But I think the real thing that'll hold this back is is, regulating this sort of thing. There's a lot of talk similarly about having a drone delivery system set up with autonomous drones flying over all the time. And while technically we're not probably too far away from that, the actual litigation required to build that kind of infrastructure, the same with self-driving cars, and how we're actually going to enforce that, and how the standards that'll be needed to be come up with for that sort of thing. That's going to take probably as long as any of the technological advances, just, especially in the U.S., just with the way our legal system works, and our kind of, we have politicians who think the internet is a series of tubes. So I don't know how we're going to explain self-driving cars to them.
Yeah, I mean, the self-driving cars is fascinating because when you start to think about it, I mean, I'm all for it. I love the idea. But then, you're at a four-way stop, and you think about like just the dance, the human dance that goes on, like, no, you go, no, you go, and it's based on so many things. And to be able to, I'm confident that there is an algorithm that can get through that. But how we bridge the gap between some driverless cars and some drivers on the road, that to me is a mystery that I don't know how they're going to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what I can see the end result where everything is, in some way autonomous. But that awkward middle period where there's some things are autonomous and some things that are still like crazy people who will cut you off for no reason. I don't know how we're going to get between those 2 points.
I know it'll be interesting because once you start to think about it and you're driving and you see how just horrible people are at driving, unpredictable, distracted, I want my driverless car now. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Mike Murphy is at Quartz. He's at MCWM. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Watch out, Tesla. Porsche just announced a new luxury electric car, the new 300-mile range Mission E. But don't put your new Model S on Craigslist yet, unless you want to sell it to me for $10,000. Then you can. The Porsche EV is still a concept car that's at least a few years away from becoming a reality. Here are some highlights that Porsche announced at the Frankfurt International Motor Show, just to get you excited anyway. Porsche hopes keeps you from buying a Tesla right now. The four-seat Mission E will take only 15 minutes to charge up to 80%. It has a 600 horsepower engine and will accelerate from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. It will also top out at the speed of 124 miles per hour. What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I'm a car guy, and I love the concept here. We also have an electric car. We have a Chevy Volt that we've paired with 41 solar panels on our roof. So, I'm all into the whole electric thing. I don't think Tesla really has anything to worry about just yet. I mean, honestly, they've got such a big lead right now, and I don't know of another company that's working harder or faster on electric car charging technology. So it's interesting to me that Porsche says it will only take 15 minutes to charge up to 80%. So I don't know what they know that Tesla doesn't know on that, because, Tesla has their superchargers, and you can certainly charge quickly with that, but that's more of a nationwide infrastructure, not an at-home kind of thing. So it'd be interesting to see how it develops.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from what I read, Porsche has done concept cars before that have become a reality. They're not the kind of company to just, say, but it is true. I mean, maybe Tesla knows this too, and they will have the same kind of charging in 3 years too. Who knows? It'll be interesting to watch. But it's also interesting because there are these car people that really are against, the self-driving cars that we were just talking about. It will be difficult to, figure out how to combine those two, the self-driving cars and the people in their electric Porsches.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time till they figure that out. But to be honest, I'm a car guy. Even though I want the convenience of a driverless car, I like to drive. I buy manual, stick shift cars, and driving is actually fun for me. So I don't want to totally give it up just yet. Right,
and it wouldn't be the same to buy this Porsche to just ride in the back, right?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, you might as well just take a bus at that point.
Exactly. So the New York Times says that Mayor Bill de Blasio is set to announce that within a decade, all of the city's public schools will be required to offer computer science classes to all middle and high school students. It won't be a graduation requirement, but it must be offered in New York. Now, it's a laudable goal for sure, but do they have the teaching staff to do it? I'm worried, Kevin, just from the story we reported earlier about that English teacher who, found this little, kit and called it a bomb. It's a good goal, but do you think that this is at all possible?
Well, I hope it is, and I mean, I understand now you're putting legislation in place that people may not want in the schools that says, "Hey, we've got to teach this, or at least offer it." I'm glad it's a we have to offer it and not a you must take it kind of thing. Honestly, the way the world is going, I think it's a wise move for the kids to be getting some type of computer science, uh, getting their hands, feet, or getting their feet wet with it. I mean, I have a degree, got it 25 years ago, certainly not in computer science, but just last year, I took a intro to comp sci with Java class just to kind of stay informed with what's going on. My son took one at the local high school as well. So I think it will help prepare these kids for the future. So again, making sure they offer it is great. I don't know if they should force it and say you have to take it. So I like where they're going with this.
So have you been happy with the kind of computer science education that your kids have experienced?
Absolutely. I actually took the exact same class that my son did. He took AP Computer Science with Java at our local high school, and I took the same class at the college level. Mine was all year round, his was half year. And, I think it's great, and I'm very happy with what they did. There were so many similarities between the teaching styles and so on. I mean, his AP class was actually a college course, so I'm very impressed, but obviously that's going to vary based on how much training these people have to teach it, and that's where it gets into trickiness because as it is, you raise the question: does New York have the teaching staff with the skills to actually do this?
Yeah, I mean, and you had a good point about this is the world that the children are going to grow up in. Whether I don't know what's going to be on that list, that tipping point technology list, but it's going to be something, and having a computer science degree and knowledge of it is going to be critical, I think. So who wants a refuse robot? According to a press release, Volvo is working on a joint venture with universities in Switzerland and the United States to build a robot to collect our garbage. It's called the Robot-Based Autonomous Refuse Handling, or ROAR project. Popular Mechanics says the idea is that the trucks sends orders to the robot to go out and get the bins, bring them back to empty them. The human inside the truck is just there to make sure everything goes according to plan. Because, of course, what could possibly go wrong with a garbage robot?
Well, I live out in the sticks, and we have a lot of raccoons and cats roaming around, and occasionally I see them in the garbage can up by the road right before the truck comes, and boy, I'd hate to see one of them stuck inside when a robot comes along and just dumps them in with the trash and compacts them, for lack of a better word.
Well, hopefully that'll be built in the algorithm. I mean, if self-driving cars can recognize, kids that are going to run out in the street, I'm hoping that they would also be able to recognize our raccoon friends.
I am hoping, because I would hate to see the worst case happen.
Friend of the raccoons, Kevin Tofel.
That's right.
This episode is brought to you by Gazelle, giving new life to used smartphones every day. You can fund your new iPhone upgrade by getting cash for your old one and sell the smart way at Gazelle.com. Lock in your price today, and you'll have up to 30 days to send it in, giving you plenty of time to get the new one. Here's some benefits of Gazelle. You can find your gadget, answer a few easy questions, and get your instant price quote. Gazelle even pays cash for broken phones. Once you accept the online offer, Gazelle will honor it for 30 days. Shipping is free, and for most items, Gazelle will even provide you with a box. All personal information from the device is removed. Payments are fast. You get a check in the mail or an Amazon gift card, then you get a little more money, or a direct deposit in your PayPal account. Gazelle has paid over $200 million to over 1 million customers. Here's some popular trade-ins. You can get the iPhone 5S 16 gigabyte from Verizon for $150. The iPhone 6 16 gigabyte for $300. iPhone 6 Plus unlocked. So just check Gazelle. You can see all kinds of offers. You can trade in your used phone and electronics for cash. Visit Gazelle.com today. So we've got Android Auto and Apple's CarPlay. Do we need Microsoft's Cortana in our car? The Taipei Times says that Microsoft Asia Pacific Research has developed a Cortana-enabled connected car prototype that projects a display onto the windshield and uses the digital assistant Cortana for navigation, restaurant reservations, and other commands. This sounds dangerous on the windshield. What do you think, Kevin?
Heads-up display, depending on what kind of information it shows and how often it's updated, can be distracting, but there are cars that actually come with that option to show you your speed and maybe the tachometer and so on and so forth. So I'm not so worried about the distraction as long as it's done smartly and safely. And actually, I love the idea of this because I just literally 2 weeks ago bought a brand new 2016 model year car. Comes with Android Auto and CarPlay support, and I've been loving that. It's been fantastic. But what about the people who do use Windows Phone? There's really not much they can do. So I like the fact that if this comes to market, it gives people a choice. I don't want to be locked into a certain car interface just because I have a certain type of phone. More choice is always better for the consumer. So I would love to see them bring this to market. And in fact, I actually prefer Cortana over Siri, not so much over Google now. So again, Cortana brings a lot of benefits. So again, it's a good move, I think.
So your new car comes with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Can you use both, or you had to choose between one or the other?
No, that's the beauty of it. In this particular system, it's a Volkswagen system. It works with either Android Auto or CarPlay or something called Mirror Link for other devices that support Mirror Link. And basically, because I do use multiple operating systems, multiple phones, I can use Android Auto one day, then I can plug in the iPhone the next day and use CarPlay. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
That's really nice. So last year, I read that Microsoft unveiled Windows in the car. I'd never heard about that. Had you? It was, I guess, it mirrored the Windows Phone experience. Was that just a prototype, or does that exist in the world?
Well, Microsoft Research is always trying new things. I don't recall seeing Windows in the car. So I don't know if it was an actual product that they put out to market or something more like a prototype. I haven't heard anything about it at all. So my guess is it's prototype, and maybe that's what they're building upon for this. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think what you said about Cortana is correct. A lot of people really like Cortana. I assume you use it on Windows 10, or do you have a Windows Phone also?
I do have both, actually, Windows 10 laptop and a Windows Phone review device.
Yeah, so I think that people have rave reviews of Cortana, so that would be helpful in the car. Reuters reports that Target will now face a class action lawsuit for its 2013 data breach, but this lawsuit isn't coming from customers, it's coming from banks. A lawyer representing the bank says the goal is to hold Target accountable for their poor security practices.
Well, I think they have a point there. I remember this data breach. We had, my wife and I both had Target Red cards and all, and we got information saying we've had our security issues. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, banks are so heavily regulated, and they don't want to, obviously, they don't want to lose money to somebody else's poor security practices. So tough call, but I think they have a point.
Well, that's it for the show. If you want to send us email, you can at tnt@twit.tv. And our TNT fan of the day is Ludwig Ederle, an internet enthusiast from Stuttgart, Germany, who posted this picture on Twitter with Kevin front and center.
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, there you are.
Glad I'm not wearing the same shirt today.
Yes, yeah, Kevin Tofel. We should add on your lower third, the friend of the raccoon, too.
That's right. I stand with the raccoons.
Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it. Kevin, what are you working on this week?
Well, until Apple servers kind of reappear, I won't be looking at iOS 9, but that's okay because I have my new Moto X Pure Edition here with a Google Project Fi SIM card in it that actually mostly works. I can do Wi-Fi calls and have them seamlessly transfer over to a cellular network. So I'll have a review of this up later this week, but my first impressions are this ticks off all the right boxes for $399.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Maggie.
See you next week. Let us know what's on your mind. Send email to tnt@twit.tv or call 260-TNT-SHOW. That's 260-868-7469. And you can subscribe to Tech News Today on Stitcher. Please leave a review. Tell us how you like the show. Choose your favorite way to subscribe at twit.tv/TN2. And you can watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1700 UTC at twit.tv/live. And if you're ever in the San Francisco Bay Area, come on in and watch us as part of our studio audience. Just send an email to tickets@twit.tv. And follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. Also, don't miss our other news show hosted by me, Tech News Tonight at 4 p.m. Pacific every weeknight. And that is it for Tech News Today. This show was produced by Jason Cleanthes, edited by Kevin King. My name is Megan Morrone. Thanks for tuning in. Mike will be back tomorrow.